Within 24 hours, President Trump ordered his Treasury Secretary to cease negotiations with House Democrats on a stimulus package, and then took to Twitter hours later to demand that the House and the Senate approve a $25 billion for airline support and a paycheck protection program.
Trump administration officials confirmed a push for a standalone bill on airlines, according to White House economics reporter Jeffrey Stein. Pelosi's office sounds open to the deal, despite the bill's absence of additional funds for things like unemployment, schools, or small businesses. Jeff has been, of course, closely following the on-again, off-again relief talks and is here to let us know what the very latest is. It's great to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Great to be back on. Thanks, guys.
All right, where do things stand as of this moment? We're recording this at 9:33 a.m., so what is happening right now?
Right now, I am feeling extremely pessimistic, and I should probably, I don't know if apologize or at least express some remorse, because I think, I've been coming on this program for a while, and over the last few months, based on the sources that I talked to and based on my own intuition and common sense, I felt like, given everything that's happened in this country and everything we're looking at, that they would do something to help the millions of people who are desperate for federal aid. And I don't know if I just was naive about politics or Washington or what it was, but I was just totally wrong. And I just couldn't believe that when both parties agree that a huge, a substantial bill needs to be passed to help people, when every business lobbyist says this, when every economist says that this has to happen, when there's overwhelming bipartisan support in both chambers, including the president, when the Speaker of the House is saying that she needs to get a deal done to help people, that despite all of that, they would do nothing. And, I have, little tidbits that I could share and we can get into about like the state of play right now. And we can definitely, and those are important for us to track because maybe they will materialize. But if you haven't been following this every day as closely as I have been, I think, big picture, like the thing to know is things are looking extremely bleak for the odds of a stimulus deal passing, and the consequences for millions of people are really scary. And I will probably be less naive next time something like this comes up. I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, your problem is that you put too much faith in Senate Republicans, and I could have told you never to do that. So, Jeff, let's talk about, just the state of the play here. As you talked about, the stakes for millions. We just got a new jobs report out this week, or a jobs update of the number of unemployment claims. Break that down for everybody that we have right here. It was worse than expected. It managed to slow down. I think it was another 800,000. I don't think people really understand what it means to shed 800K jobs a week this far along into the pandemic. I was also just looking at outdoor dining, which is a lifeline to millions of restaurants and businesses. Well, they say that outdoor dining collapses around 45 degrees Fahrenheit. We're what? 2 weeks away from that, right? Maybe 3 weeks here on the East Coast. We could see an apocalypse very soon.
Here's a stat that I've been bringing up as often as I can because I think it's mind-blowing. Over the next 6 months, we are at risk of 50% of small restaurants in this country closing. That's how long they say they have, without federal support, that they'll face closure. That is a really scary number. Think about your 10 favorite restaurants near you. Imagine if 5 of them, all of their kitchen staff, all of their wait staff, the servers, all of them being laid off. And then take that across the entire country. It's unimaginable consequences. On the macro question, to give the administration a bit of credit, they are right that the economy really did not hit the horrific depths that we were anticipating in March. Mnuchin told senators that the unemployment rate could hit 25%. And thank God, very luckily, we're not anywhere near that point. Hiring picked up over the summer, and the Q4 numbers are expected to be okay. That said, hiring has slowed down dramatically. In September, there were only 700,000 new jobs added. There were something like 2 million added in the previous 2 months as the economy was picking back steam. So that has really proven a drag as the recovery slows down. And your point about the cold weather reemerging is a really, really important point. And this is like I mean, I don't want to be too dramatic or scare people for no reason, but this is what I think, a lot of the economists I talk to say is sort of the nightmare scenario in which we have complete paralysis in DC. The election is coming up. We don't expect to get a stimulus deal by November 3rd. Then we have 3 months until January 20th when, maybe there's no incentive for Trump to do anything else during that period. And at that same time that Washington is at its maximum paralysis, we're going to see a huge increase in cases, according to Dr. Fauci and most of the scientific experts, and the concurrent wave of shutdowns and restaurant closures and economic headwinds. So I'm looking at that period as being very frightful for economic news. I hope I will be on this program in a few months being like, wow, those warnings were way too dramatic and hysterical and I was wrong. Just like I'm saying now that I was wrong to think that they would get a stimulus deal done. But I think it's really worth taking that threat seriously and trying to think, is there anything more they can do to provide help before we enter that really difficult season?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about Pelosi's role in all of this? I mean, we've laid, I think justifiably so, a lot of blame at President Trump's feet because he's the only person who really could have gotten the Senate Republicans in line. They basically follow like a sheep wherever he wants to take him. And he never, ever had a clear message on this, had a clear list of priorities of what he actually wanted and required. And so that's ultimately what sort of doomed this. And of course, then he goes out and tweets like, we're not doing this anymore until after the election. But talk about the way that Nancy Pelosi played this and what she thought the politics of this looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that Trump, when he went out and said, I am ending negotiations, it really gave Democrats a political out to point their finger at the president and say, look, he's owning this. But, I'll just make this point. Secretary Mnuchin came up with an offer of $1.6 trillion, including $400 a week for the unemployed, another round of checks, help for small businesses, $250 billion for state and local governments. And you can look at that, as some economists do, and say that's not enough. But the reality is that offer was put on the table. Pelosi didn't take it. And now they appear to be open to negotiating a $25 billion deal for the airlines. So last week, Pelosi turned down, or at least didn't accept, was still working on, they were still negotiating, but she did not just leap out and take Mnuchin's offer of $1.6 trillion because it was not enough. And now they might be passing a $25 billion package. So, I mean, I talked to a number of aides on the Democratic and Republican side who think, Pelosi, the most cynical will say that she didn't want to give Trump an election win in a stimulus deal. Some of them say that. I think the more generous take is that, to give the president an election win, she was going to demand a pound of flesh or, exact a very high price. Mm-hmm. The criticism of that school of thought would be, this is a high wire act. You're taking a big risk with a lot of people's lives if that is really your intention. Of course, I can't prove at all or assert that that's what she was doing. I don't have, reporting to back that up. But certainly, Democrats on the Hill think that, and Republicans on the Hill certainly think that. And, if that's at all true, it would be a tremendous, disservice to people who need help.
Yeah.
A lot of game playing with people's lives, bottom line. Jeff, great to have you.
Thank you, Jeff. Sobering update.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Next on Rising, candidate Joe Biden has repeatedly condemned Bernie Sanders' agenda to distance himself from socialism. Daily Beast reporter Hannah Trudeau, she's going to share how the left is responding. That's when Rising continues.